Uh, Welcome to meeting number 5 of the House of Commons Standing Committee on Health. The committee is meeting today to discuss supplementary estimates for 2020 to 2021. And I want to thank the witnesses for appearing today. So we have the Honorable Patty Hajdu, Minister of Health. We have from the Department of Health, we have Mr. Stephen Lucas, Deputy Minister. We have also with the Department of Health, Les Linkletter, Federal Lead, COVID-19 Testing, Contact Tracing, and Data Management Strategies. With the Public Health Agency of Canada, we have Dr. Teresa Tam, Chief Public Health Officer. From the Public Health Agency of Canada, we have Ian Stewart, President. We have from the Canadian Food Inspection Agency, Dr. Sidaka Mitani, President. From the Institutes of Health Research, we have Dr. Michael Strong, President. So today's meeting is taking place in hybrid format. I would like to start the meeting by providing you with some information following the motion that was adopted on the House on Wednesday, September 23rd. So as the committee is now sitting in hybrid format, it means that members can participate either in person or by video conference. All members, regardless of their method of participation, will be counted for the purpose of quorum. The committee's power to sit is, however, limited by the priority use of House resources, which is determined by the whips. All questions must be decided by a recorded vote unless the committee disposes of them with unanimous consent or on division. And finally, the committee may deliberate in camera, providing that it takes into account the potential risks to confidentiality inherent to such deliberations with remote participants. The proceedings will be made available via the House of Commons website, so you are aware the webcast will always show the person speaking rather than the entirety of the committee. To ensure an orderly meeting, I would like to outline a few rules to follow. Members and witnesses may speak in the official language of their choice. Interpretation services are available for this meeting. You have the choice at the bottom of your screen of either Floor, English, or French. I should note that if you're not using the latest version of the Zoom application, you need to switch to the particular language of interpretation that you're going to speak. Before speaking, click on the microphone icon to activate your own mic. When you are done speaking, please put your mic on mute to minimize any interference. And a reminder that all comments by members and witnesses should be addressed through the chair. Should members need to request the floor outside of their designated time for questions, they should activate their mic and state that they have a point of order. If a member wishes to intervene on a point of order that has been raised by another member, they should use the raised hand function. This will signal to the chair your interest to speak and create a speakers list. In order to do so, you should click on participants at the bottom of the screen. And when the list pops up, you will see next to your name that you can click raise hand. When speaking, please speak slowly and clearly. And my apologies to the translators. Unless there are exceptional circumstances, the use of headsets with a boom microphone is mandatory for everyone participating remotely. Should any technical challenges arise, please advise the chair. Please note that we may need to suspend a few minutes as we need to ensure all members are able to participate fully. For those participating, I'm not going to go through the participation in person. I don't think we have any today. And with that said, I would like to invite the minister to make a 10-minute statement.
Chair?
Chair.
Yes. Is that a point of order?
Hi, Chair. Me.
So are you raising a point of order?
Oh, I'm just wondering if you're recognizing me to speak.
No, I recognize the minister to give her statement.
Well, I'm just on a point of order. The original motion for this meeting today required that the minister stay for 2 hours, and we've lost an hour of committee time. I'd like to clarify if the minister and her officials will be staying for 2 hours today.
Thank you. I believe the minister may wish to speak to that point at some point during her statement. So I would certainly invite the minister to carry on with her statement, unless she wishes to answer.
On that point of order, it's actually a procedural point of order, and it's up to you to decide on it, not the minister. So the motion that was put forward the committee was for the minister to stay for 2 hours. We have lost an hour of the meeting. The minister has not been in front of committee in some months, and we've got billions of dollars of spending to scrutinize, and a long statement from the minister with no questioning time from the committee is not sufficient. So I would like to know if the minister will be staying for the full 2 hours with her committee members today. Otherwise, perhaps the committee should make alternate arrangements for this before we proceed with the minister's statement. Thank you.
I certainly would invite the minister to respond to that if she wishes, but it's, I don't see that it's really germane at this point. I would
Well,
certainly like to hear the minister's statement.
Mr.
Speaker.
Mr. Speaker, on that point of order, are you ruling my point of order? Or are you overruling my point of order?
Well, it seems to me you're asking the minister whether the minister will be available for the full time. I'm certainly inviting the minister to respond to that question. It
Before
seems
she starts her statement.
Sure. If the minister would like to respond to the statement, I would invite her to do so.
Mr. Chair, I had a point of order as well, and I'm sorry, but we've got these witnesses here. They've been patiently waiting. We've got the ability to start this meeting, and if we can't finish this meeting, we can come back. We can invite them back to finish the meeting. Everybody has agreed that we want the minister for 2 hours. We've got at least an hour. Let's start. Let's get focused and move forward on this, and at least get some time in today, and we'll happily make it up after the constituency week.
Thank you,
Chair.
Mr. Fisher. Ms. Rempel, I've asked the minister if she wishes to respond.
Well, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, on a point of order.
Minister, did you wish to respond to the point?
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm able to stay today till 4 p.m. and I'm more than happy to come back to provide the additional hour of appearance.
Thank you, Minister.
Well, Mr. Chair.
Point of order, Chair.
So actually, Mr. Antimo has a prior point of order. So go ahead, Mr. Antimo.
No, that wasn't me. I'm guessing that's Mr. McGuire. But you know, quite honestly, if I can have a point of order, is that we've been sitting here. There's an hour that's already gone by. We have 2 hours of questioning to do, and we would like to do it all in one swoop. So I'm just wondering if you could recognize Miss Garner, Rempel Garner, and maybe we can run a motion and try to find another date that would work for everyone.
Mr. Chair, if I just may, I've had my hand up to speak to the point of order, if I may. It's more than just what people want. I'm going to read the motion that was passed that is binding upon this committee and you. It says that, pursuant to the order of reference of October 22, 2020, the Minister of Health appear before the committee for no fewer than 2 hours to consider the supplementary estimates be on or before Friday, November 6, 2020, and that this meeting be televised. The motion couldn't be clearer, and that's why, having heard the point of order and having heard from the minister, who can only stay for, at this point, 1 hour, we would be violating the precise terms of the motion that we passed, and we'll have no choice but to reschedule this meeting. And again, I appreciate the minister being here and all the staff, and I appreciate it's not their responsibility or fault that this meeting has been truncated. Although I do note that when we convened this meeting, when we started, generally the procedure would be to ask for unanimous consent to proceed with the meeting while the bells were ringing, and at least we could have got the minister's statement out and proceed at that time. I noticed that you didn't even canvass that possibility, but just simply unilaterally said the meeting wouldn't start till now. So as the chair of the committee, you decided to start this meeting when, in the knowledge that we would have 1 hour to complete the meeting, when the motion calls for the minister to appear, not the meeting to be conducted, but for the minister to appear for no fewer than 2 hours, which we all know now cannot happen.
On that point of order, Mr. Chair.
So we have, excuse me, I still have the floor.
Certainly.
So I know the minister has not appeared before the committee in a number of months. My honorable colleague with the Conservatives is quite right. There are massive numbers of areas to look into. And it's not appropriate to have the minister come before a committee, have a chance to have a statement, speak for 10 minutes, and then we have maybe enough for one round of questions before we stop the meeting. So not only do I not think that we can go or that we should stay for an hour today and reschedule, by the terms of the motion, we cannot. So I suggest that we reschedule this meeting. The minister has graciously offered to come back for another hour. Let's just have the minister come back as soon as possible for the full 2 hours so that we can actually get that traction. My final point is going to be, I know it's hard to gather this number, many people together. If they're going to come together, let's spend the full 2 hours examining the issues that I know all members and the minister and her team want to cover, instead of breaking this up into smaller pieces.
On that point of order, Mr. Chair, does the motion say anything about having the 2 hours concurrent? Because there's no reason why we couldn't do an hour today. We've got these folks here, they're all sound checked. Let's do an hour today. Invite these folks back for another hour, another day after our constituency week, and that still fulfills the motion that we all supported unanimously.
Well, if I might, yes, Mr. Chair, exactly. It does say that. It says no fewer than 2 hours on or before Friday, November 6th, which is today.
Okay. So clearly the wishes of the committee are expressed in that motion. However, I should remind the committee that we cannot compel the minister to appear. The minister was invited to appear. She graciously agreed to do so, and she has graciously agreed to come back and fulfill, the other hour that we would like to hear from her. But it does seem to be the will of the committee to have a vote on this. So I will recognize Ms. Rempel to move her motion.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move that the committee reschedule the 2-hour meetings scheduled for November 6, 2020 to the week of November 9th through 13th, 2020, taking into consideration the minister's availability, and that the same witnesses be invited to appear.
Thank you, Ms. Rempel-Garner. So we go now to Mr. Fisher. Mr. Fisher, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and for all the reasons that I outlined before. These extremely busy, brilliant people have been here waiting for a long time. They're all sound checked. We can do an hour now and an hour after the constituency week. Let's not continue to waste time. We have Dr. Tam, one of the busiest people in the country. We've got the minister, we've got deputy ministers, we've got incredible people here, set up, sound checked. We can easily do an hour now and do an hour after the constit week. Mr. Chair, I move to adjourn debate.
Thank you, Mr. Fisher. There is a motion on the floor to adjourn debate. I would ask the clerk to call the vote.
Monsieur Thériault.
Président.
Mr. Thériault.
De Madame Garner au vote.
Are you putting the motion from Ms. Rempel to the vote? Is that correct?
Désolé, the motion de...
The motion from Ms. Garner is that word of the vote is for?
Journée de débat.
Is to adjourn the debate.
Point of clarification or point of order, Chair. My understanding is that the motion before committee right now is to adjourn debate on my motion so that it cannot pass, so that it can't be voted on, so that the Liberals would continue with the meeting in a spirit against this motion.
Thank you, Ms. Garner, Rempel-Garner. There's no debate on this. Certainly, Mr. Thériault is entitled to know what we're voting on. The motion is to adjourn the debate. Mr. Clerk, please go ahead.
Monsieur Thériault.
Sorry, I have a point of order, Mr. Chair. I'm not clear what we're voting on or what the consequences of the vote are. And we can't cast a meaningful vote if we don't know what we're doing.
Let me clarify.
Perhaps the clerk can clarify what the vote is and what the import of the vote is.
Sorry, Ms. Rempel-Garner moved a motion. Mr. Fisher moved to adjourn debate on the motion. We've done this many times. The vote is on the question of adjourning the debate. If the motion passes, the meeting will continue, and if the motion is not successful, we will debate Madam Rempel-Garner's motion. I'm sorry, Mr. Clerk, if you please start again.
Monsieur Thériault.
Point of clarification,
Sure.
though. So you're saying then if we vote to adjourn debate, then we're going to vote on the motion itself by Ms. Rempel-Garner, right?
Negative. If we adjourn the debate, then the meeting will continue as scheduled. If the motion to adjourn the debate fails, then the debate will continue, and we will then debate Madam Rempel-Garner's motion. I think that should be pretty clear to everybody now. Mr. Clerk, please conduct the vote.
So, Mr. Chair, it's McGuire.
Sure, one more. Go ahead.
So if we vote against this adjournment bill or motion that came forward, we will continue to debate the motion that Ms. Garner had put on the floor.
If you vote against adjourning the motion or adjourning the debate, then the debate continues. Yes. Anybody else?
Thank you.
Okay. Once more time, Mr. Clerk, please commence.
Monsieur Thériault?
Je suis contre l'ajournement.
I'm against the adjournment of the debate, but Mr. Clerk, I didn't hear you. I just heard, oh. So I presumed that it was for me to talk. The same thing happened earlier as well, and that's why I didn't answer. So you have to be careful. There are some sound issues at your end, Clark. And in passing, Mr. Chairman, my understanding of the debate was in English because there was no translation into French for a while before people started to clarify things. So from a technical point of view, can you please ensure that everything is set up correctly? Having said that, I've given my vote. I'm against adjourning the debate.
Barlow?
I vote against adjournment.
Mr. D'Entremont?
Je vote contre.
I vote against.
Mr. McGuire?
Vote against the motion.
Ms. Rempel Garner?
I vote against.
Mr. Fisher?
For.
Mr. Kellaway?
For.
Mr. Pawlowski?
For.
Ms. Sidhu?
In favor.
Mr. Van Bynen?
In favor.
Mr. Davies?
Against.
So we have 5 yeas, 6 nays.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. So therefore, the debate is not adjourned. We can continue. I have Mr. Fisher and Ms. Rempel hands up. Did you wish to speak again, Mr. Fisher?
Well, I would again. It's I don't know where we're going now. I guess we're going to debate Ms. Rempel Garner's motion to adjourn. No, to reschedule this meeting. It's a shame. Again, I apologize to our witnesses. We have the opportunity to get a really good hour of fulsome discussion in here. So I apologize for all of the waste of time here. It certainly wasn't the attention on this side of the house. We want to get down to work. Thank you so much. We'll wait to see where the debate goes.
Thank you, Mr. Fisher. We go now to Mr. Davies.
Yes, just briefly. You know, I've, like many of us here, I've sat on committees for a long time, and what is customarily the case when we ask the minister to appear is the minister appears for 1 hour on estimates, and then her staff stays for the remaining hour. That was specifically and explicitly not done in this case. In fact, it's the first time I can remember a committee saying that we want the minister here for 2 hours, and why wouldn't we? We have the Minister of Health in the middle of the biggest pandemic in a century. Those are the words she uses, and she's right to use them. By the way, it's also the governing party, the Liberals, choose when to schedule votes or not. They control the order paper in this case, and they chose to have a vote today in the middle of this meeting. And one of the reasons that committees, who are the masters of our own business, if we decide that we want the minister here for 2 hours because in our wisdom, we believe that's the amount of time we need in order to have a fulsome exploration of the issues, then that's the will of the committee. If the government decides to schedule a vote during that time and deviate and interfere with the committee's ability to enforce the very motion that we all passed, including the very Liberals who are speaking today saying an hour is okay, who voted in favor of having who voted in favor of having a motion to have the minister come for 2 hours, or if they didn't vote in favor, the majority of the committee said that that's what we wanted, then that's what we need to do. I mean, if you take this argument to its extreme example, the minister could have come, given her 10-minute statement and left. Or she could have come and given a 10-minute statement and stayed for 10 or 15 minutes to answer questions. That's not what this committee requested and what we passed. And so while, I think it's very unbecoming for a member of the government side to sort of suggest that, we're losing time here when it's his own government that scheduled a vote that made it impossible for us to carry out a 2-hour meeting that's long been scheduled to have the Minister of Health come and answer questions. I'm going to also say that one of the reasons that we want 2 hours is because there are so many issues to canvass. And it's important to hear our colleagues' questions and hear the minister's answers and to dig into, to hear those answers from the minister so that we can actually follow up with further questions. When you only have 1 hour, that process is interrupted. And where I'm going to conclude is where I started at the beginning of this. This motion says she has to be here for a minimum of 2 hours. If she says that she can't be, then the motion cannot be respected, and we have no choice but to reschedule this. And I sincerely hope that the minister will be available next week sometime to come for 2 hours. She's already offered generously to come for an hour. I'm sure we can find another 2 hours. And where I'll conclude is by saying, I realize that there's a lot of very important, busy people before this committee. So are the members of this committee. We are elected here by Canadians as the Health Committee, the Standing Committee on Health, to hold this government accountable. We haven't heard from the minister or Dr. Tam or staff for many months now. And so it's not an indulgence or a favor that the minister and these staff appear before this committee. It's their duty. It's their responsibility. The only question that we have here is, of course, out of respect for the minister's schedule, we need to find an appropriate time. I'm sure that we can do that. After all, we found 2 weeks with the minister on slightly less than 2 weeks' notice already.
Just a quick point of order on Mr. Davies' comments there. The minister agreed immediately to 2 hours. The committee all supported this. We all supported this. We see that this is a good thing. The argument is whether we can do an hour today,
Chair.
which is running out.
Thank you, Ms. Rempel-Garner. I'll step in when I feel appropriate. Mr. Fisher, that is debate. We need to go to our next debater. Monsieur Thériault, allez-y, c'est à vous.
You have the floor, Mr. Thériault. Yes, Chairman. We have had a motion from Madame Michelle Rempel-Garner. I don't know if Madame Michelle Rempel-Garner would accept to put something inside the motion, because in parenthesis, I'm not going to take up again all of the arguments put forward by my colleague, Mr. Davies. I completely agree with him, and on the substance, he always gives very good advice to this committee so that we can stay on the right track. Having said that, we have all prepared for this meeting. And of course, we clearly want to have 2 hours. We have worked hard to prepare for this. However, we have not planned for any meeting next week, but certain members of this committee, not just myself, but others, are also on this committee that is already meeting for 2 days next week. So I would like us to introduce something into Ms. Garner's motion, whereby we would say that after we say take into consideration the minister's availability, I would add excluding the slots that have been put forward or reserved already for the Justice Committee, so that we are all able to participate and work together when the minister appears next week. And we can draw on all the work that we've done so that it's not then done by others. We want to ensure that there won't be any conflict with our timetable. I've been very flexible. I think that we absolutely have to respect this motion, which invited all the officials together with the minister to come and answer before us for 2 hours. So I'm open on this. So could the mover accept this addition into the motion? Otherwise, I'll make a sub-motion. Thank you.
Monsieur Thériault, make an amendment if you wish to do so.
OK, je comprends qu'il n'y a pas de...
So there's no answer from the Conservatives. So I'm going to make a sub-amendment.
Sorry, Chair, just on a point of clarification, I support what Mr. Terrio is saying. I just understand that procedurally he has to make the amendment in order for it to count, but we would support that.
Thank you. So, Mr. Theriault, if you wish to move that amendment, please do so.
Alors, je le propose.
So I would propose this then. Did the clerk catch that? Was it clear enough for you, sir? Yes, just to check, and I will ensure that there's no timetabling conflict if the motion is adopted. Excellent, says Mr. Theriault. Thank you. So, Chair, I'm ready to vote on that.
Is the committee comfortable with the amendment as Mr. Theriault has proposed?
Yes.
So we have the opportunity now to debate this amendment. Does anybody wish to debate this Mr. Theriault's amendment? I see Mr. Kellaway's hand is up and Mr. Van Bynen. Mr. Kellaway, go ahead. Mr. Kellaway, you're muted.
Sorry about that. Having a difficult time with my technological abilities today. I'm wondering if, number one, if you can read the amendment again, to Mr. Theriault's amendment, so I'm clear on it. And the other aspect of this is with respect to some of the discussion that has come up today, in particular, Mr. Fisher's discussion on an hour here and an hour the following week or the week after. I'm new to elected office. I know there are many here that have been around a long, long time. But I look at, maybe I'm looking at this differently, I guess, but I look at the fact that we have an enemy in COVID, and it is certainly rearing its ugly head again in round 2, maybe in round 3. We have the generals here, the advocates that can speak for an hour. It's not an indulgence on our part. I think that's rather coarse. I think it is, they're here, they're serving like you are, like I am. We're elected officials. We want to ask them questions. We want to ask them tough questions too, just like you do. We want to be fair, just like you do. But the fact of the matter is to have 1 hour and then to look at another hour very, very soon in the midst of a pandemic when we need to hear from our officials. I'm just blown away.
Mr. Kellaway, please address your comments to the chair, not individually. Mr. Van Bynen, please go ahead. Mr. Van Bynen, you're muted. I think your switch on your headset is muted.
Monsieur le Président,
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Kellaway was asking us to read out the amended motion again to understand it well. Should we not proceed right away to reread this amended motion?
You're quite correct. I apologize. Monsieur le Clerk, perhaps you could clarify for Mr. Kellaway and others the exact amendment that has been proposed.
Je vais la lire en français.
Yes, I'll read it out in French as Mr. Theriault put it forward in French. What I've understood is that we would add, taking into consideration the minister's availability, excluding time slots for the Justice Committee. Exactly right. Excellent. Thank you. And then we continue with the motion as it reads, and that the same witnesses be invited to appear. That's it.
And thank you, Mr. Theriault, for bringing me back on topic. And I think we go now to Mr. Van Bynen. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So this discussion now then is with respect to the amendment only. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. So my concern, and while I appreciate that there would be other meetings that could have a conflict here with respect to other committees, we've been a long time planning this constituency week. And there are a number of very significant meetings that have already been arranged by myself, and I'm sure by other members within this group, to live up to their obligations to listen to their community, to their constituents. And it would be embarrassing and somewhat disrespectful to our constituents to have to change all of those meetings to accommodate this. So my suggestion would be is that we should also allow for other commitments. I know that there's reference to timetable, but why are we restricting it only to the Justice Committee? Should we not be also looking at the availability of other members of the committee and recognizing their commitments?
Do you wish to make that as a sub amendment?
So yes, I would. I said so. Taking into consideration the Justice Committee commitments, as said earlier, as well as other committee amendment, as well as other committee commitments to their constituents.
Thank you. Is everyone clear on Mr. Van Bynen's sub-amendment?
Mr. Chair, I think my name is on the list to speak next, however, and I apologize if this it's not meant to be a point of order, but can we please release the witnesses? I mean, we've heard from Mr. Terrio, we've heard from Mr. Davies, and we know the Conservatives want to set this, reschedule this meeting. Can we please just let these amazing people log off and go back to the amazing things that they do?
Thank you, Mr. Fisher.
On that request, Chair.
Ms. Rempe-Garner, I am speaking.
Sure.
Pursuant to your request, Mr. Fisher, until we dispose of this particular motion, we don't know whether or not we will be able to call upon the witnesses.
Okay.
So we have to deal with this first. So the debate at this time is on Mr. Van Bynen's sub-amendment. Is there any comment on Mr. Van Bynen's sub-amendment? Any discussion? I see Mr. Terrio. Is here. Go ahead, Alizi.
In fact, Chairman, when Mr. Davies specified the sense of the initial motion, which implied that we could listen to the Minister for 2 hours, the motion from Ms. Rempe-Garner meant that if we voted for, then either we'd have to bring back the witnesses or else actually dispense them from what they're now hearing. So I'm very surprised to hear that people want to continue to discuss this instead of putting it to the vote, because what Mr. Fisher has said is now actually happening because we want to make sub-amendments upon sub-amendments. But out of respect for the witnesses, I do believe that we have to dispose of this motion and ensure that we know yes or no whether the witnesses are going to actually appear today or not, or be released. So I think it's contradictory what's been put forward by Mr. Biden, and I would vote against.
Well, when we call a vote, we can certainly, you can vote whichever you please, but it is the prerogatives of the members to speak on motions and sub-amendments, and it is their. So, is there any further discussion on Mr. Van Bynen's sub-amendment? Seeing none, I will ask the clerk to conduct the vote.
Monsieur Thériault.
May I please have the question read as to what we're voting on, please?
Very well, please, Mr. Clerk, if you could do that.
So I have the French version here. I have it in French also. Sorry. So, you want me the whole motion or just the amendment, the sub-amendment?
Mr. Davies, did you want the whole motion or just sub-amendment?
Whatever it is we're voting on now.
We're voting on the sub-amendment. Mr. Van Bynen has moved that we add the availability of other members of the committee in addition.
Okay, so I have it.
Go ahead.
So taking into consideration the ministerial availability, except for the time allotted to Justice Committee, as well as other committee members' availability. Availability. So, except for the time allotted to Justice Committee, as well as other committee members' availability.
Right. Is everyone clear on the sub-amendment? Therefore, please, Mr. Clerk, conduct the vote on Mr. Van Bynen's sub-amendment.
Monsieur Thériault. Monsieur Thériault.
Je suis contre l'amendement.
I'm against the amendment.
Mr. Barlow,
Vote against the sub-amendment.
Mr. D'Entremont,
Je suis contre cet amendement.
Mr. McGuire,
Vote against the sub-amendment.
Mr. McGuire,
I vote against the sub-amendment.
I'm trying to sure. Mr. McGuire,
Talk loudly, Larry.
I vote against the sub-amendment.
Ms. Rempel Garner,
I vote against.
Mr. Fisher,
For.
Mr. Kellaway,
In favor.
Mr. Polowski,
For.
Ms. Sidhu,
In favor?
Mr. Van Bynen,
In favor.
Mr. Davies,
Against.
non, yeas pour 5, nays contre 6.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. So the sub-amendment is defeated. We go back to the amendment, Mr. Theriault's amendment. Is there any further discussion on Mr. Theriault's amendment regarding the Justice Committee? Seeing none, I'll ask the clerk to conduct the vote on the amendment by Mr. Theriault.
Monsieur Theriault,
Je suis pour.
Mr. Barlow,
I am in favor of the amendment.
Mr. D'Entremont,
Je suis pour.
Mr. McGuire,
I am in favor of the amendment.
Ms. Rempel Garner,
In favor.
Mr. Fisher,
Sounds fair to me. I'll vote for it.
Mr. Kellaway, Mr. Kellaway,
Je suis pour.
Mr. Polowski,
For.
Ms. Sidhu,
Yes.
Mr. Van Bynen,
Yes.
Mr. Davies,
In favor.
yeas pour 11, nays 0, against 0.
Thank you. It would appear that the Mr. Theriault's amendment is carried. The discussion now is on the Ms. Rempel Garner's motion as amended. I see Mr. Fisher. Please go ahead, Mr. Fisher.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. And I understand that the minister is not available next week, but she is available the week of the 16th to the 20th. I wonder if that would be something that we could amend to ensure that we are able to get the minister back here again for 2 hours.
Mr. Fisher, did you wish to move such an amendment?
Sure. Thank you.
Could you be more precise about the amendment?
Yes, she's unavailable to meet next week, so I would move that that the minister come back for 2 hours the week of November 16th to 20th. I know that the motion does speak to the availability of the minister, and the minister is not available next week.
Thank you, Mr. Fisher. So the amendment on the floor at this time is to modify the time as Mr. Fisher has proposed. Is there any discussion on that? I see Ms. Rempel Garner. Your hand is up. Go ahead.
I find it a little strange that the minister couldn't find 2 hours in an entire week. I mean, we can meet in the evening, we can meet in the early morning. I'm just wondering how the minister can't be available for an entire week to come in front of a parliamentary committee on the supplementary estimates when she's asking Parliament to spend billions of dollars. It seems a little ridiculous to me. In fact, it seems a little contemptuous. Like, how can you not, as the
Point of
minister,
order, Mr. Chair.
I'm not
Contemptuous,
done.
really? Point of order. Contemptuous,
Well,
really, Mr.
I'm making-
Mr. Chair?
Thank you,
I'm-
Mr. Fisher. I draw the members' attention to we need to treat our witnesses with courtesy and respect. So thank you.
Well, and
Are you finished your point?
I am not. And the minister also needs to treat this committee with respect. And so I allow my comment to stand. To summarily say that there is no availability next week is, look, we have to, we have some, I have a lot of questions. This committee has not met for months. I honestly, we need we need her here for 2 hours and we need her here next week, not the week after. I just can't. Like, she's sitting here. Like, what is she possibly doing, Chair, that she can't find 2 hours?
She
next
could be
week?
answering questions right now.
I need 2 hours, Chair. Look, I'm still on the floor. I'm on the floor.
You're moving against.
I still have the floor, Chair. Thank
Okay.
you. Again, just for the record, like, we could have passed this motion and the minister could have availed herself of 2 hours next week. This is billions of dollars of taxpayer spending, and like a whole, and not just that, it's like public policy decisions on restaurant closures, on vaccination timetables. Like, a week, when we lose a week on this, we could have more closures across the country. So honestly, I don't understand how the minister can't make herself available for 2 hours.
Point of order.
Point of order, the minister is making herself available for 2 hours.
Next week,
just wasted
within a week.
portion of it.
Hold up, guys. So, Ms. Sadhu, you have a point of order?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, we all know, we all listen when Minister said she's happy to stay till 4. And I'm very disappointing. I have some questions for long-term care.
Okay.
I have some questions for.
So this is, sorry, I'm sorry, Ms. Sadhu, this is not a point of order. Let's go back to the motion.
I still have the floor. So I would just respectfully ask the minister, I know that there's a lot of high tension here, but we need 2 hours with the minister, Chair. And I would respectfully ask her, given the amount of money that she is asking this committee to approve through the supplementary estimates, that she would avail herself of 2 hours next week, given the urgency of the situation. And given that one of her primary roles in her mandate letter from the Prime Minister is to be accountable to Parliament. She has not been in front of this committee for some time. Surely she can find 2 hours to do that in the next week, which is a break week from Parliament. So she does not have the typical timetable of question period and other things. Surely she can find 2 hours in her time next week to appear on this.
Thank you, Ms. Rempel-Garner. We go now to Mr. Kellaway.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. So where to begin here? We all agree this absolutely is the issue of our times. We want to have questions for the minister and Dr. Tam. And looking at my clock, it's 4:34 Atlantic Standard Time. So for 34 minutes, as our right as parliamentarians, we're debating and making sub-amendments. Meanwhile, the minister is right to the left of me. If this was the Brady Bunch set, she would be right down to the left-hand corner for us to be able to ask questions about. But instead, some of us are making good points, and I would argue some are pontificating on their points and repeating their points. And right now, we have issues with long-term care. Right now, we have issues with airports not being open. Right now, this is going on. And we're talking now, minute 35, saying the minister, we want to ask the minister questions. So do I. I would have loved to. I would have loved to hear her statement. For an update, I would love for Canadians to hear that. But now we're into minute 35 of this committee. And I am absolutely floored by this. I think most Canadians would be too. We can look at a time that we can get 2 hours. We can look at a time that we can get additional hour. I don't know the minister well. I know her schedule is busy because she's one of the top people ensuring that Canadians are safe, along with a lot of people in the public service. But come on. Canadians are expecting us to get to work, folks. Let's get to work.
Thank you, Mr. Kellaway. Mr. Davies, go ahead.
Well, just briefly, I wanted to make one point is I do hope that colleagues will stop just hitting their microphone and interjecting when another person's speaking. I'm not going to single out anybody. Maybe we're all responsible for that, but we really do have to respect whoever has the floor. I must say that Ms. Rempel-Garner made a point that I thought was valid, which is next week is a break week. And so I do know that does I know that we're all busy, but at least the duties in the House are not there for the minister as well as for the parliamentary secretary. So that should be, I think, a little bit easier to schedule. Once again, I also want to add my voice and say that I guess it's up to the minister. She controls her schedule, whether or not she feels that she can rearrange it, whether or not this committee is important enough or priority enough for her to appear before this committee next week for 2 hours, given the fact that the estimates are on a bit of a timeline here. I know she's very, very busy doing a lot of very important things, but I would say that this committee ranks up there in importance in terms of her responsibilities. I'm going to repeat again that it's been months. I want to say March, but I'm not 100% sure of that since the minister last appeared. I apologize if I'm wrong on that, but it has been a number of months. I also hope that we don't keep going back to this issue of what we could have done in the last hour. I'm going to go back again and say the motion that this committee passed was to have the minister here for a minimum of 2 hours. So you can't show up at the meeting and go, well, geez, well, how about half an hour? And act like it's a waste of time if we don't use the half an hour when this committee explicitly debated and passed a motion that said a minimum of 2 hours. It doesn't lie in the mouths of anybody in this committee to now second guess that and make it seem like people aren't interested in working. I came to this committee today prepared to work for 2 hours as well. We all did. And it's not a comment on anybody's work ethic. If suddenly some people behind the scenes make a decision that subverts the very meaning of the motion we had, that's on them. That's not on this committee. And so I don't want anybody's work ethic questioned here when the motion that we passed is being violated. And I'm going to finish again by saying this. There's a lot of parliamentary games that are played. There's a lot of tricks on everybody's plate. The government has probably the biggest plate of tricks. And whoever on the government side chose to schedule a vote today on a sub-amendment that did not have to be scheduled today, knowing that they had cabinet ministers coming to committee, did that knowing that that would interfere with the ability of this committee to hold the minister accountable. So again, I'm not going to hear any government side witnesses talk about how sad they are that they missed this opportunity when it was their side that interfered with the ability of this committee to carry out the precise terms of the motion that we passed democratically. And they should be ashamed of themselves for trying to proceed in derogation of that motion. It makes a mockery of the motions we pass. So I'm going to agree with Michelle Rempel-Garner on this. There was no reason that this cannot be scheduled next week. I know we're all busy. We can find 2 hours next week to discuss all of the myriad of health issues. And the health minister, I'm going to ask her to rearrange her schedule and treat this committee as a high priority and find 2 hours next week that work. And on the last point about in terms of our times next week, we don't have to have everybody that's at this table at the meeting next week. We can send substitutes, and we also have quorum rules. So every party can easily have someone representing it at this committee next week, no matter when it is scheduled, no matter what other committees are being conducted at the same time. So if we really don't want to stop wasting time, let's get to the motion and just pass a motion that asks the minister to come to this committee next week if she can. And I understand that this motion still builds into it the ability for the minister, it's subject to the minister's schedule in any event. So if she really can't come next week, if there's really not 2 hours next week that she can come to the Standing Committee on Health to hold herself accountable for questions, then she can make that decision. We can't compel her to come. But let's get to it and let's pass this motion and leave it in the hands of the minister and her scheduling. And if she can't come next week, I suppose she can't, we'll do it the week after. But let's move on. If everybody really believes their own rhetoric here and wants to move on and quit wasting time, let's get to the vote on that and try to get this meeting for 2 hours scheduled as soon as we can.
Thank you, Mr. Davies. We go now to Mr. Van Bynen.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
The debate is on Mr. Fisher's amendment. Amendment.
Yep. The concern that I have is that we hear that there's a sense of urgency. Well, frankly, the urgency is in the field. The urgency is in delivering the services that our constituents and our residents need. If I understand it correctly, is that these SUPs are not due until December. So if the debate and the discussion was about the SUPs, then why is next week so urgent? Unless we're going to be discussing something other than SUPs, and I don't think that was the intent. I agree that we should go ahead and make sure that we vote on the issue, but I'm just not quite accustomed to all the finger wagging and the finger pointing that I'm seeing in some of these discussions. I would hope that we would all focus on moving forward and doing what we can for our constituents. So I'll leave it at that. But it's not an issue of it being priority enough. It's an issue of we are creating a sense of urgency on the SUPs that are not due until December. I'll leave it at that, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Van Bynen. Is there any further discussion on Mr. Fisher's amendment? Ms. Sidhu, please go ahead.
Mr. Chair, I think Mr. Fisher's amendment is very reasonable, and then we all should think about it. And other thing is we are not playing any games. We all want to work together, and the ministers here and all the health officials here, amazing people who's very busy. I think Mr. Fisher's amendment is very genuine. We should look into that.
Thank you, Ms. Sidhu. Is there any further discussion on Mr. Fisher's amendment? Seeing none, I'll ask the committee if everyone is comfortable with what the amendment is.
Please, Mr. Chair, would you please repeat the amendment?
Mr. Clerk, if you would, please.
Well, I will ask Mr. Fisher because it's not clear to me what exactly the motion says. Sorry.
Apologies. Thanks, folks. I just have the motion adjusted to have the minister appear the week between the 16th and the 20th, not next week.
Thank you. Is everyone clear on Mr. Fisher's amendment? Seeing no dissent, I shall ask the clerk to call the vote on Mr. Fisher's amendment.
Monsieur Thériault.
Je suis contre.
Mr. Barlow.
I vote against the amendment.
Mr. D'Entremont.
I vote against the amendment.
Mr. McGuire.
Against the amendment.
Ms. Rempel-Garner. Ms. Rempel-Garner.
Against.
Mr. Fisher.
For.
Mr. Kellaway.
For.
Mr. Polowski.
For.
Ms. Sidhu.
For.
Mr. Van Bynen.
For.
Mr. Davies.
Against.
So, yeas pour 5, 5, nays contre 6, 6.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. So the amendment, Mr. Fisher's amendment, does not carry. We go back to the Ms. Rempel-Garner's motion as amended by Mr. Thériault. The debate resumes on that matter. Is there any further debate on the amendment? Sorry, on the motion as amended? So I see Dr. Pawlowski, if you could put, I see you're waving your hand. If you could do it on the side thing, that keeps everybody in the same thing. But I see no conflict there. So Dr. Pawlowski, please go ahead.
I think and hope we're just going to vote it out. And I do suggest that in the future, we try to have some more harmony in this. This has been how many weeks we've been spinning our wheels with doing nothing. So one way or the other, we have to start debating COVID. It's getting kind of crazy. How many weeks has this been now? We've been basically in procedural wrangling. I do want to discuss the issues. This is the number one issue. The blood is squirting on the ceiling. As an emergency room doctor, that's what I get worried about. But yeah, okay, it's not real people's blood, but it is public health blood, and people are dying from this. And we do need to start addressing the issue and stop procedural wrangling. So please let us all keep that in mind, and for the next meeting, come and actually start doing the work instead of wrangling over procedure.
Thank you, Dr. Pawlowski. We go now to Mr. Van Bynen. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a comment. I would have hoped that there might have been some flexibility on the other side, or the individuals that have put forward the motion, to give some consideration to extending it by 1 week. I still don't understand what the sense of urgency is, and I'm concerned that this may become a tempest in a teapot.
Thank you, Mr. Van Bynen. We have Mr. Kellaway next.
Oh, it just seems like we're going to a vote. Atlantic Standard Time, it's almost 10 to 5, so let's vote.
Ms. Sadhu, you're next.
Mr. Chair, I want to apologize from all health officials, ministers. I think they are in front, that this team is in front of fighting with COVID-19, and I think we are wasting their time. We wasted their time. I just want to apologize that. And everyone is watching. This is the health committee, and I'm very disappointed today. We had an hour. We wasted that hour when our residents want to watching us, want to ask me questions. So I have many questions: long-term care, mental health, so rapid testing. There's many other things. We all have hard questions to ask our officials, our minister, and we all wasted our time. And this is not Canadians want us to see. And I just want to apologize from all health officials and minister. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Ms. Sadhu. Is there any further discussion on Ms. Rempel-Garner's motion as amended by Mr. Theriault? Seeing nothing else, is everyone clear on the amendment? Sorry, on the motion as amended? Seeing no dissent, I will ask the clerk to conduct the vote. So the vote is on Ms. Rempel-Garner's motion as amended by Mr. Theriault.
Monsieur Theriault?
Je suis pour. Il y a encore un problème de son, Monsieur
Monsieur, désolé.
And there's still a sound problem. Yes, I'm having to read your lips. That's why I'm able to answer. But there could actually cause a big problem. I'm sorry, I'll make sure it doesn't happen again.
Mr. Barlow?
Vote in favor of the motion.
Mr. D'Entremont?
I vote in favor of the motion.
Mr. McGuire?
I vote in favor.
Ms. Rempel-Garner?
In favor.
Mr. Fisher?
Vote in favor, Mr. Clerk.
Mr. Kellaway?
Yes.
Mr. Pawlowski?
Yes.
Ms. Sidhu?
Yes.
Mr. Van Bynen?
Yes.
Mr. Davies? Mr. Davies?
Yes. Yes.
So we have 11 yeas pour, 11 nays contre, 0.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. So the motion as amended by Mr. Theriault carries. I see Mr. Barlow. Did you have an interjection at this point?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I appreciate giving me the floor here for a moment. I'm just wondering if we can save some time and have more opportunity for questions for the minister. I'd like to table a motion that the minister table her opening statement that she was going to give today, so the members of this committee can review it in preparation for the meeting which we are rescheduling, hopefully for next week.
Did you actually want to make that motion, or did you just?
Yes, I'd like to make a motion that the minister table her opening statement for this committee, that we can review it in preparation for the next meeting.
Mr. Fisher.
Mr. Chair, I think that the minister has to have the right to make that opening statement. No, I'm sorry, I just do not agree with this at all.
Thank you. Anybody else? I see Mr. Barlow or Mr. Barlow, are you raising your hand again?
No, sorry, I've had no.
Is there any further debate on Mr. Barlow's motion?
Sorry, Mr. Chair, just a point of clarification, I suppose. Is what I'm hearing is a written statement as opposed to her speaking to the statement? Is that, I just want to be clear.
Yes, in response to Mr. Kellaway, my motion would be that the minister table her statement. And by reason for that, it would give us more time. And all of us here today have spoken about the need to have as many opportunities as possible to present questions to the minister and officials. I would prefer us have that 10 minutes to pose questions rather than having an opening statement that we could all read over the next week and be prepared and be ready. I think that's a better use of our time than just having the minister use that 10 minutes to give an opening statement when we could read it now that we know it's ready. We could read it over the next week and have it not have her read it again next meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, through you to Mr. MP Barlow. Thank you for that. I would just say that I look at this as also an opportunity, obviously, for the minister to have a conversation with us in her 10 minutes, and it is 10 minutes, I believe. But it's also a conversation to be had with Canadians who are watching. So I see Mr. Barlow's point of view, but I would prefer if the minister spoke to parliamentarians on this committee and through us and through other means, speak to Canadians. Thank you.
So we go now to Mr. Van Bynen.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm concerned about the request of the motion, and it's largely because following a pre-established routine motion, we've never asked others to present their opening speeches in the past, and so it's inconsistent with the House of Commons Procedure and Practice, Chapter 20, page 1069. So we're establishing a different precedent here. And so will that be the expectation, or will that be required of all other witnesses? Let's be fair.
Let me interject here. I think that we can ask, but I don't think we can compel in any case. In this case, Mr. Fisher, please go ahead.
Mr. Chair, with all due respect to Mr. Barlow's motion, we've seen a pandemic that's changing on a daily basis. An opening statement next week by a minister could be a different opening statement than we would have heard today. This does not show any respect at all to the Minister of Health. This is not something I've seen on any committee. I absolutely think that, and I apologize to Mr. Barlow, but I feel that this is a ridiculous request.
Thank you, Mr. Fisher. Let me actually just interject here. We've already passed the motion that says we're going to reschedule the meeting, so we really have no further need to compel our witnesses to stay. So I would like to ask thank the witnesses and thank the minister and all the officials for being here, and hope to see you soon when we reschedule. And thank you. And if the minister and officials wish to depart, I think that's okay, and we can carry on with this discussion.
Well, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Was that
point of
Mr.
order?
McGuire?
Yeah, that would be relevant unless we do vote that the minister should table her words today, and which case, if she's not there, she can't do it. So I just raised that as an issue.
Well, thank you, but of course we can make that request, and whether or not she's here or not, she can, she can fulfill it as or not as appropriate, depending on how on circumstances. So I really would like to thank the witnesses for taking so much of their valuable time and offering it to us today, and hope that we can count on them. I know that we can count on them down the road. So the debate will carry on Mr. Barlow's motion, and Mr. Davies, you have the floor.
Thank you. Well, a couple of preliminary observations is I do think we in the past have on various times cut down the amount of time for witnesses to give opening statements, and we routinely request that witnesses provide written documents. But in this case, I'm going to disagree with the motion with respect. I think the minister, I think Canadians do want to hear from her. The meeting is televised, and I think it gives her and witnesses the opportunity to speak directly to Canadians, like all witnesses do. And the other thing is that if we do meet next week or the week after, there could be other developments that occur between now and then that may affect what the minister wants to say or comment on. So I do think, out of respect for our witnesses who do take time out of their busy lives to come and share their times with us. I do think that the minister should have the opportunity to have her 10 minutes to address the committee and Canadians like every other witness does. I think it is a good point that Mr. Barlow makes, though, about that providing more time for us to ask questions. But even given that, I think that it's important to have our witnesses have the ability to have the chance to give their statement. So I'm going to oppose the motion to have it tabled in writing and allow the minister to provide her opening remarks in person, if that's what she prefers to do. I suppose if she wants to table them in written form, she could. But I think if she wants to prepare her remarks verbally, I think she should have that right to do so.
Thank you, Mr. Davies. We go now to Mr. Barlow. Mr. Barlow, please go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I appreciate the feedback from my colleagues on the committee. And Mr. Fisher, you do not have to apologize to me. I'm a big boy, but I do want to point out before I get to my comment, you were incensed with the language from my colleague, Michelle Rempel-Garner, but you had no problem calling my...
Could I ask the members to not speak directly to each other? Speak to the chair, please.
Mr. Chair, for Mr. Fisher to be calling my intervention ridiculous, I think isn't exactly in the most parliamentary tone that we are trying to establish here on this committee. So I would just say, be careful with glass houses, Mr. Chair. And I don't think any intervention by any of our colleagues on this committee should be deemed as, ridiculous or inappropriate. I'm certainly sat here for the past hour listening to all the comments from my colleagues on this committee and giving them the weight and attention that they deserve. So my point with this motion, Mr. Chair, was simply to provide more opportunity for the members of this committee to ask important questions of the minister and the officials. This was not in any way to rob the minister of an opportunity to speak to Canadians, which she gets every single day at every press conference she wants to schedule, at question period every single day. And for my colleagues on the Liberal side to say, yes, this is changing every single day, this is why we want the minister here next week and not in 2 weeks. And yes, we want to get to work. We were not, the opposition parties on this committee were not the ones who prorogued Parliament for almost a month when we could have been doing important work, when Canadians needed their elected officials at the most important time in their lives. The government decides to prorogue Parliament. So it's not, I find it a little bit ironic that now they're complaining about it's time to get to work. Yeah, we could have been working for the past 2 months. And that is why we think it is critical that the minister appear here next week and we have as much time as possible to ask her the important questions our constituents want us to be asking on their behalf. So that was the impetus behind my motion, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Barlow. Ms. Rempel-Garner, please go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. Again, I appreciate what my colleague, Mr. Davies said. I also appreciate what my colleague, Mr. Barlow said. I think the frustration here, Chair, is that we are being asked as a parliamentary committee to approve quite a bit of funding. And I know, like, I just feel as a parliamentarian that in the last year, from my perspective, the government is seeing this review process and this scrutiny as an inconvenience. And it's actually fundamental to our democracy. So I think the spirit that my colleague, Mr. Barlow, is making this motion on is to say, look, table what you've got today. We'd love to review it in terms of preparation to see if we have questions on the appropriateness of these expenditures. And if stuff changes, table stuff next week too. Come prepared with another statement. I think the point that's being made here is that we need more information, not less. And it's become very difficult to be a parliamentarian under these circumstances where we're getting, massive spending bills rammed through Parliament without really understanding how the government is making decisions and on what principles. So, it's just, I would love to review that statement. I understand that I also want the minister in front of committee to make a statement, but I'd like to know what she would have said today, but during a vote that the government scheduled conveniently during her appearance, that we didn't start the meeting before. So I'll leave it to the committee. I think it would be great to review, to prepare for next week's meeting. And as you said, she of course has the choice to make that appropriate or not. But I think, Mr. Chair, what this is meant to say is this. The days of the government just ramming things through this committee and pretending that we're not going to scrutinize their decisions or that they can't have accountability to us.
Is this still on, Mr.
during the-
Barlow's?
Yes, it is. Thank you, Mr. Fisher. And Chair, to the points that have been made before, those types of interruptions are, I get it. I'm a woman. People usually interrupt me, but enough. I like the days of that type of relationship with this committee is over. There is a responsibility to public health, and there's also a responsibility to democracy. And every member on this committee has the right to scrutinize the government's decisions. So I believe that's the spirit in which this motion is being made. But Chair, again, this is perhaps my feelings to the government. They need to understand that we are going to be asking for information and we are going to be scrutinizing their decisions. And it is also their responsibility to be accountable to this committee. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Rampel-Garner. We go now to Monsieur Thériault. Monsieur Thériault, allez-y.
Please go ahead, sir. Well, I do not want to do any finger wagging, but as a parliamentarian, whatever our colours, we owe it to the electors to have a minimum of fair play amongst us and a minimum of respect. I agreed with the motion from Mr. Barlow until he expressed his intention, inviting the minister to submit her speaking notes as other witnesses do before they meet with us. That was fine, that was acceptable. But going beyond that limit by saying that it's because we don't need to hear from her, that's too far for me. Because I consider that it's showing a lack of respect, not vis-à-vis the executive power and her authority as such, but rather we're asking someone to come and meet with us. And if she is kind enough to table these notes, that's fine, but the supplementary estimates are already accessible, and the work that we have to do vis-à-vis these documents is work that we're already doing. It's already underway. So as parliamentarians, we do not want to remove from a witness the capacity of being able to speak before us. And if the minister wishes to express certain ideas, whether it takes 10 minutes or not, I believe we have to hear from her to show a minimum amount of respect. So I wouldn't cross that line. I'm sorry, I never want to cross that line. I am a parliamentary legislator, and I don't like the executive to come and stick its nose into the legislative power-making side of things, but I'm capable of treating equally people who hold that power. And if the minister wishes to speak before us, then she will do so, because gagging a minister is as bad as gagging a parliamentarian. Therefore, I will vote against this motion because I believe that the intention behind this is not acceptable. And if this is how we get going in the committee, and I'm looking back on what we've done so far, I think we'll never manage to move forward if we keep going like this. So perhaps I am finger wagging here, but I'm not going to do to someone else what I don't want them to do to me. And between the blues and the reds, it seems that it swings backwards and forwards, and that's what we've got as a result of our parliamentary process. And it's a healthy process in a democracy. But I'm putting myself into the shoes of Minister Barlow. If that was done to him, I'm sure he would be incensed, and I certainly wouldn't do that to him as a legislator. So I just wanted to get that off my chest. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Thériault. Is there any further discussion on Mr. Barlow's motion? Seeing none, I will ask the clerk to conduct the vote. Please go ahead, Mr. Clerk.
Monsieur Thériault,
Je suis contre.
Mr. Barlow,
I vote in favor.
Mr. D'Entremont,
I vote in favor.
Mr. McGuire,
I vote in favor.
Ms. Rampel Garner,
In favor.
Mr. Fisher,
Mr. Chair, apologies to Mr. Barlow for my comment. I vote against.
Mr. Kellaway,
I vote against.
Mr. Polowski,
Against.
Ms. Sidhu,
Against?
Mr. Van Bynen,
Against.
Mr. Davies,
Against.
we have yeas pour 4, nays contre 7, 7.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. So Mr. Barlow's motion does not carry. That brings us to the end of our business for today. I thank everyone for attending and for your attention and all of your diligent efforts. And with that, we shall now adjourn.
Have a great weekend, everyone.
Have a good weekend. Take care.